Of the Uganda Human Rights Commission, I have the honor to submit to you a copy of the research report that we conducted in 2022 titled Squeezing Water Out of a Stone, Working and Living Conditions of the Uganda Police Force Personnel and Their Implications on Observance of Human Rights. I present this special report to you, sir, in fulfillment of the Commission's obligations under Article 52, Clause 2 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. The research was conducted drawing on our mandate stipulated under Article 52, Clause 1C of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. I am glad to inform you that this research was conceived at a high-level strategic meeting of the top leadership of both the Commission and the Uganda Police Force 5 years ago. It was one of the proposed interventions to provide the required evidence for answering the nagging questions of why breaches of human rights standards were persisting among police personnel, despite the numerous actions taken to improve their appreciation of and compliance with their human rights obligations. This research was conducted with the full cooperation and collaboration of the Uganda Police Force. And as evidence of their full cooperation, right, Honorable Speaker, this report is signed by, among others, by the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Martin Ochola. So this document is not just ours, but also theirs. The research was based on the constitutional mandate of the Uganda Police Force under Article 212 and its obligations to respect, uphold, and promote human rights and freedoms in the performance of its functions as enshrined under Article 20 and 221 of the Constitution. It was proposed on the backdrop of persistent breaches of human rights standards by police personnel, the rights of the Uganda Police Force personnel themselves, which were not effectively observed, and the likelihood of this causing them to hurt others, and the dynamic legal framework that had increasingly assigned individual liability for violation of human rights, compensation to victims of human rights violations by the government, the police force, and the individuals diverts resources from service delivery and development initiatives. The research sought to establish whether police working and living conditions were a catalyst for human rights violations. Right, Honorable Speaker, the findings and their human rights implications were profoundly eye-opening. In view of that, the Commission made general and specific recommendations for improving the observance of human rights in the Uganda Police Force, as detailed in this report. It is therefore our prayer that all duty bearers to whom recommendations were made act on them expeditiously so that the observance of human rights can be enhanced. In the same breath, we call upon the rights holders to be more vigilant in fulfilling their duties and responsibilities. I now wish to draw your attention to a few highlights of the report. The research found that generally, the living and working conditions of the Uganda Police Force personnel were wanting, and in some cases it was extreme and unimaginable. The situation of housing or accommodation in the force was dire, with institutional accommodation largely dilapidated, comprising shared rooms partitioned by either curtains or makeshift boards. Right, Honorable Speaker, some of them told us that it was hard for them to get children because of these situations. They reside in condemned structures and unipods unfit for human habitation. And this report contains a few pictures we took during the study. Junior personnel were the most disadvantaged in terms of acquiring decent housing, as they were often displaced from institutional accommodation by their bosses. Some personnel opted to live in their own homes or voluntarily rent outside institutional accommodation. By these first concerns about their personal security outside the barracks, as well as affordability of decent housing. Many live between 3 to 8 kilometers away from their workstations, while 3% live between 8 to 14 kilometers away from their stations. The force does not facilitate their staff with organized transport to and from work, yet they are on call 24/7. The linkage between the living and working conditions of the police force personnel and their observance of human rights of others came out evidently. This explains the choice of our title, Squeezing Water Out of a Stone, which implies that police personnel are giving a lot more than they are receiving, and in some instances, it is amazing how, in their given conditions, they can still manage to provide any service. Most personnel have some office space, but which is largely insufficient, in poor condition, and indecent. Most police stations and posts lack designated space for fulfilling particular functions. Imagine a situation where you have to interview a suspect or a witness in the presence of others. They fear they may get to speak out. Equipment, tools, and even cells that a standard police unit should have. This directly and vicariously affected the quality of service and, in fact, the observance of human rights. This research found a general shortage of a whole range of office supplies, including uniforms. And in some cases where they have uniforms, there is other gear which they should wear, like jackets, thick jackets, especially those deployed in very cold places. In some cases, irregularities marred the provision of supplies. Meals on duty are very scarce, and so are the food rations. Most police posts and police stations get insufficient interest, ranging between Uganda shillings 300,000 to 2 million per quarter. Office equipment, including firearms, were either not readily available or insufficient, and in some cases, their functionality was not reliable. Consequently, police personnel improvised a lot by using their own money or borrowing, depending on the support and goodwill of well-wishers, or even asking clients or suspects or their relatives to photocopy police forms before they are rendered services. They resort to doing less, but within their means. At times, they have to share guns, ask complainants to transport officers, use wananchi to carry accident victims, use ropes in lieu of handcuffs, work with suspects to court in the absence of vehicles, and use observation to detect crime in lieu of required gadgets, among others. Nevertheless, some of their strategies were found to be high risk. On the issue of utilities, piped water is not regularly available within police stations and the outposts, especially the newly established police stations and posts. Electricity is averagely available in offices, but where it is not, personnel use private internet cafes at their cost to perform urgent official duties, although this poses risks to safety and confidentiality of delays in response and action. The use of other sources of energy has some health and safety implications. The research revealed high levels, about 70%, of unfairness in deployments, transfers, and promotions due to underhand methods, corrupt tendencies, favoritism, tribalism, nepotism, technical know-how, bribery. Personnel have to individually foot the cost of their relocation, regardless of the process or factors for deployment or transfer. However, training was said to be, to a greater extent, conducted in a professional manner with good content and relevant to their day-to-day policing duties. Salary is rank-based, save for the professionals as categorized under the Public Service Circular Standing Instruction Number 4. Consequently, in some cases, personnel of the same rank, same qualifications, and same duties are paid differently. This salary disparity causes challenges in effecting command and order. It fuels indiscipline and lack of respect for commanders, since they are better paid subordinates disparage them out of a superiority complex, ultimately leading to loss of morale and poor performance. Both the professional and non-professional categories stated that their salary was too low and inadequate to match the increasing cost of living and their welfare. They observed that salary should have been based on workload and rank to ensure that the difference does not demotivate them. Nevertheless, 47% of the respondents said the inadequate pay did not affect their duty to observe human rights. Delays in processing retirement, pension, and gratuity caused by bureaucracy and irregularities, despite a well-laid retirement scheme, cause a lot of frustration to some retired officers, men and women. Most personnel prefer pass leave to annual leave, which is shorter because the annual leave requires adequate funds to be meaningful. Some personnel have to be forced to take annual leave, while some have never taken any kind of leave, as they do not want to go away from their perceived benefits of being around the station, or for fear that their positions will be taken away while they are on leave. The inadequate awareness about the reward system makes it prone to abuse or undue influence. On the other hand, the sanctions process was said to follow well-laid down procedures based on police standing orders and with a known appeal process. However, there were allegations of randomly determined sanctions, with some judgments of the disciplinary court predetermined or influenced by, I quote, headquarters through orders from above, quote, or even underhand methods such as corruption. Respondents claimed if they reported cases of ill treatment to any institution, like the Uganda Human Rights Commission, they are suspended or transferred to stations far away from their home areas or hard-to-reach areas as a form of punishment. Safety at the workplaces was attributed to individual vigilance, regular presence of station and bodyguards, availability of CCTV cameras in some stations, deployment of at least 2 personnel at a go, availability of transport in some stations, and fenced premises. However, 19% felt unsafe due to lack of fenced premises, inadequate manpower, and lack of CCTV cameras, lack of intermittent electricity, and long distances between the personnel's place of residence and workplace, but also between places of deployment and police stations in the absence of official transport. Specific circumstances of insecurity cited included Karamoja region because of armed cattle rustlers, yet some stations were manned by very few personnel. Times of riots or public demonstrations owing to inadequate or lack of protective gear. The poor police image tainted by social media. The attacks on police stations by some members of the community and the nature of work. Staff welfare initiatives such as the Police Saving Association Limited and the Exodus Police Circle are said not to be beneficial because of many limitations in operations. Too low loan limits to facilitate meaningful projects, transparency issues and bureaucracy, among others. Only 7% of the respondents rate the Uganda Police Force SACCO services as very good. 14% say they are good, 23% say they are fair, 26% say they are poor, and 30% say they are very poor. The management of the SACCO services in most instances lacks a human rights-based approach. The Uganda Police Force Medical Scheme is not well known by the personnel who complain that they have to queue for services like any other patients, yet they are required to be on call 24/7. Referrals to government hospitals are affected by lack of transport to reach them, lack of medicine in those hospitals, alleged nepotism and corruption, and the cumbersome processes for claiming refunds. According decent burial to a police officer, policeman or woman, is also said to be discriminatory, favoring senior personnel and those at the head office, which is demoralizing. Right Honorable Speaker, the research also established that socio-political factors have a moderating role on the observance of human rights over and beyond working and living conditions. Specifically established was the inadequate awareness about laws and policies due to their unavailability, as well as inadequate training. The gaps in implementation of policies on human rights, health, training, salary enhancement for professionals, promotions, placement, and transfers, etc. And the rampant interference in police work of political, social, cultural, economic, and environmental nature also affected the observance of human rights in the force. In spite of all the findings, most personnel have a positive attitude to their work, with 78% of them saying they are proud to serve their country as police personnel. It is evident that rank and remuneration did not determine whether respondents were proud to be police officers or not. This showed that there was goodwill, or there is goodwill among the majority to perform their functions diligently and serve to the best of their ability, despite the challenges. The majority of the police personnel say public perception has improved owing to the achievements of the community policing programs, which have increased public confidence in the police. However, there are dissenting voices that cite the mismatch between what the officers tell communities about police services and what the people actually find when they try to access them. For example, being asked to photocopy forms and also pay for medical checkups makes the community perceive police personnel as corrupt, even in instances where they may not be. Others blamed it on the social media negative influence of the public against the police. Right Honorable Speaker, our prayer is that urgent action is taken on the recommendations as detailed in this report to enable the force integrate the human rights-based approach in all its policy development, implementation, evaluation, and review. Through you, Right Honorable Speaker, we appeal to Parliament to enhance the budgetary allocation to the police force to enable them raise working and living conditions of their personnel and facilitate proper conduct of work and observance of human rights for everyone. The force requires facilitation to develop and implement a standard design for a police station or police post that conforms to human rights standards, update staff records to facilitate the rights of the personnel, harmonize remuneration, provide adequate equipment and supplies, disseminate laws to all personnel, and improve communication and information flow, among others. The Uganda Police Force needs the support of all stakeholders, both duty bearers and rights holders, in ensuring accountability and ending impunity for human rights violations, and in particular, empowering the police to comply with human rights standards and protecting them from undue reprisals when they stick to the law, while at the same time ensuring that culprits are sanctioned accordingly. Before I end, Right Honourable Speaker, let me take this opportunity to request that, or to remind you that our institution is due to be merged together with the Equal Opportunities Commission. Our mandate is already the biggest under the Constitution. With the merger of the two institutions, the workload will get even much heavier. We are in support and agreement of the merger. But I want to request you, Right Honourable Speaker, to support our suggested amendments to the bill, which we hope to present very soon before the Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee. For example, I will give just one example. The Uganda Human Rights Commission is the only constitutional body without a deputy chairperson. All the others have deputies. Yet the workload is so big. And in the event that something happened to me today, when you look at the strict laws we operate under, without the chairperson, there is technically no commission. In fact, I'm talking from reality because this commission lost a chairman, I think in 2019. And from the definition of the commission under the Constitution, without a chairperson, there is no commission. And of course, there were other issues which happened after the death of the chairman to do with management, leadership generally, which exposed the commissioners to undue conflicts. God forbid that something happens to me today. I believe it will not. But that's one of the amendments we shall move. I want to thank you again, Right Honourable Speaker, for listening to me. It is now my honor to submit to you and to the Parliament of Uganda this research report for your consideration.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I came with it in form of Honorable Tamaguzi. My colleague, he had come to see me and I said, come, we receive this report, girls. Thank you for joining me.
Sometimes very hostile to me. I'm reporting.
It happens. Those are occupational hazards. Yeah. Thank you. I want to thank the Uganda Human Rights Commission for fulfilling your mandate and bringing out these very critical issues in society. This is a very, very critical report because it's an issue we've been grappling with. And I don't know whether it was influenced by Honorable Simewe, former police officer. But I really want to thank the Commission for bringing these issues to the fore. I haven't read through the report. I have only received observations. I wish you had highlighted a few major recommendations, the way you've highlighted the observations, but I will read the report and we shall ensure that we do justice to it through the normal process of Parliament, whereby it will be laid on table and referred to the Committee on Human Rights that will be required to report back to the House. I want to thank you. You've brought it at a critical time when we are processing the budget. We've just finished processing the budget framework paper, so we are now waiting for ministerial policy statements. I know the police force has a budget sitting in the MTF of 841 billion Uganda shillings against a proposed budget on their side of 3.1 trillion. So you can see the unfunded priorities in that sector are very, very critical. And when the budget comes at us, of course, Ugandans know it's a wish list. Because when you're looking at a tax to GDP ratio of 14%, and we do have a discretionary budget out of a budget of around 52 trillion, this coming financial year, discretionary budget will be around 22 trillion. That's where we shall need to get schools, we need roads, we get hospitals, we get for police, we get defense and all that. So as Parliament, we shall sit down and scrutinize deeply, as the rest are statutory obligations. So, but like issues of pension and all that, those are easily covered because they are statutory obligations. And as Parliament, we have said this coming budget, we shall ensure that all funds related to pension are provided, because pension is a statutory obligation of government. There's no negotiation. It's like salary. There's no negotiation about it. So the issues from the observations, some of the issues are budget neutral. So issues which are budget neutral, those are low-hanging fruits we can pick on. They are to do with the administration, with the policy changes and all that. But the ones to do with financing is where we are facing a huge challenge. But if we are to reform the justice law and order sector and reform the criminal justice system in this country, we can't do it just by appointing more judges the way we were doing, because the judges need to be served. At first we appointed the judges, but there was a gap of prosecutors. So now we have looked at prosecutors and we have provided, last financial year, we exempted their salaries from taxes, so which was a very big boost to the prosecution side. But now we need to look at the investigation side, because the prosecutor depends on the investigator. The judge depends on the prosecutor. So if you are to do a whole ecosystem of a well-run criminal justice system, justice law and order system, then we have to ensure we don't have mismatches, whereby one sector is deeply looked at and the other sector is not looked at. So we are going to go and scrutinize deeply all these. The commission will be, I'm very sure you will come in and explain further. You highlight most of these things in the committee so that we can give due justice to the report. I know government has tried with the challenge that they have, a few measures that were put in place. For example, on the housing sector, we were encouraging our security forces on having even their own homes, because one day you retire and the government won't give you a home. That's why the government put up a scheme of duty-free items, focusing mainly on iron sheets and cement, duty-free. Those who are able to come in and be able to acquire them. But that's not enough, because if you're putting someone in Kataku, if you're putting someone in Mitoma, then you need to provide them accommodation. And also in some cases, I want to appreciate our population, which is willing. For example, I know in my area, people have been contributing funds to build police stations. Now, that means the value we put onto this institution is a very, very great value as businesses, as individuals. And I want to take this opportunity to greatly thank our forces, our police forces, our army, all of them for working tremendously, keeping our country safe, ensuring law and order despite having unfavorable conditions. They persevered. And this is what it takes. That's why the spirit of nationalism, the spirit of patriotism comes in there. That doesn't mean they shouldn't be demanding for these services. No, they should be demanding for them. But I really want to thank them. No one has stopped work because they don't have housing. But now we have to go and study. What is the impact, the way you've done it under Uganda Human Rights Commission? What is the impact of this silence? Are they finding other means? Why are many people, despite these conditions, why are many people dying to join police? Police put up an advert, I've received over 100 calls. Help me, I join police. Okay? People, even the ones who are appearing before professional standards, when they are being told we can chase you, they are begging, we don't want to go, despite the hard working conditions. So is there another driving factor? Is it corruption? Are they finding a way of mitigating their situation? You know? So it is something we should interest ourselves as a government, and we just don't say, these guys are doing a great job, they are comfortable, and we take it for granted. I hope we can dig deeper since the Uganda Human Rights Commission has given us a very strong foundational research to this topic, and we see how best we can help our people. With those very many words, I want to thank the Commission once again for this study. On issues which you raised to do with merger and all that, I'm constrained by Rule 8 of our Rules of Procedure, which says we don't work in anticipation. We haven't received any bill to that effect. Once it comes to Parliament, we shall have an interaction. And you're always very sure that you have support from this institution of ours. I want to thank you once again. Thank you.
Nyebwe, enyumba empya zizimbibwe mu kifo kyezo. Abasinga okukosebwa be ba poliisi ab'erank eza wansi, kuba bakama baabwe bw'abanga alina ennyumba gy'asiimye agisulamu wa ranka ya wansi, amulagira n'agivaamu ye n'agiddamu. Ne we bakolera wennyini police stations ne police post ezimu ziri wala nnyo, nga abamu banoonya bambi n'apangisa akayumba afuneko okwo ku mirembe, naye ate olaba ng'oluusi ennyumba gy'asulamu newakolera waliwo olugendo lw'amaanyi nnyo. Abamu no batambula ne kilomita nga 14. So kati waliwo akakwate mu mbeera wakati wa embeera z'abapoliisi ze bakoleramu n'engeri gye bakolamu emirimu gyabwe. Kati to be specific, ne bakuuma batya eddembe ly'obuntu. Waliwo akakwate wakati w'okukuuma eddembe ly'obuntu mu bantu be basisinkana nga abasibe, oluusi n'abaleeta emisango, ba complainants, abakoseddwa oba ba victim. So osanga oli bambi waasula wabi nnyo, oba n'ekyeggulo teyalidde, ate wuuyo gy'oddukidde akutaase. So yes, ng'ate gy'oddukira oli naye embeera ze si za buntu. Office space nakyogeddeko nti nno abamu bambi batuula wansi w'emiti oba ku verandas. Oli alina statement gy'awandiika okuva mu mujulizi oba oyo yakoseddwa, oluusi no batuula wamu, osanga ruumu emu erimu desk nga za mirundi ng'esatu oba ena. So kati kiyinza okuleeta okutya mu mujulizi alina kyayagala okugamba oyo amuggyako statement naye ng'atya bano banne batudde nabo n'ebintu ebirala nga impressed oba waliwo ssente eziweebwa buli police post oba police station mu kwota oba mu myezi 3 okuddukanya ofiisi ezo nga oba okusasulako ku masimu kuteekako airtime oba waliwo oluusi wabaawo kye tuyita emergency waliwo omuntu eyeetaaga okutaasibwa mu bwangu oba ku kino kye tuyita mob justice waliwo omuntu gwe baagala okukumako omuliro ng'omupoliisi alina okusitukiramu atuukeyo byonna ebyo alina okuteeka amafuta mu motoka oluusi n'emmotoka teriiwo naye nga byonna byetoololera ku interest ya mitwalo nga 3 mu myezi 3 twayogeddeko kino kinakuwaza nnyo ebikozesebwa nga firearms emundu oluusi nazo tezimala kino ekirala kyo kankireke embeera ze zibeeramu oluusi abamu kye bakola sharing okweyazika alina gy'agenda naye nga ogwo omulimu task emuweereddwa ateekwa okugenda n'emundu naye nga tagirina neyeeyazikako ku ya munne ekintu ekyo tekiikirizika ebirala nga waliwo oba agenda okuwandiisa oba okuwandiika omusango omupya yeetaaga police forms naye n'azisaba oyo aleese omusango okuzikolamu photocopy lwakuba forms tezimala ebikozesebwa ng'emmotoka na bino bye tuyita handicrafts empingu ntono nnyo ddala so kati oluusi bambi omupoliisi yeesanga akozeseza omuguwa ate kati ife ne tumugwamu nti atyobodde eddembe lyoyo omusibe okumusiba omuguwa ng'embuzi oba ente so handicrafts ezo tezimala abamu nina ekitundu kye natuukako eyo ndowooza Arua naye nga abapoliisi abagenza okukwata omusibe beegayirira mwegayirire bambi tugende ojja kufuna bondi tugende totuka so bwe bityo bwe kituuka ku deployments nti oba gundi nkusindise ekyokulabirako kino oba okay nkusindise ogenda okolereko ku Parliament gwegenda ku KCCA gwegenda okuume ssentebe w'akakiiko k'eddembe ly'obuntu gwegenda okuume banka gwe nkusindise ogende ebulambuuli tukutadde mu ofiisi ya oba signals bwe kituuka ku deployments bwe zityo twakizuula nti okunoonyereza kuno nga tuyita mu kunoonyereza kuno twakizuula nti oluusi bibeeramu bwe kituuka ne ku promotions oluusi mubeeramu kyekubira oluusi ku mawanga oba omukwano n'obuli bw'enguzi ate oyo omupoliisi aba aweereddwa transfer taweebwa ntambula ebyentambula ebibye n'efamire ye abikolako ye mwenyini ate n'ataddizibwa ssente ziba zimuweereddwa z'aba akozesezza bwe kituuka ku musaala abasinga bagamba twakizuula nti omusaala mutono nnyo si bamativu na musaala ogwo naye ate ne mujja mubeeramu nga mulimu abapoliisi nga ba ranka emu emisomo gyabwe gye gimu empapula zaabwe qualifications ezimu naye ate kati mwajjamu kano nti waliwo aba science waliwo n'aba arts so kati neweesanga nti wadde gwe police commander owa police station eyo naye ate abantu abakuli wansi aba rankanga za wansi ate bo bafuna omusaala ogusingako ogugwo. Ekintu ekyo kireetawo indiscipline oba bano ab'amadaala aga wansi okunyooma bakama baabwe ekitakkirizika mu armed forces. Nekireetawo kwegamba ne okunakuwaza bano bakama baabwe. Bwe kituuka ku kuwummula mpezeza emyaka gyange 6 ngenda kuwummula. So kati abagenda mu retirement balina okufuna akasiimo kaabwe pension and gratuity. Naye okukafuna ate nayo nduulu kubanga wabaawo kanjiyite bureaucracy. Balina retirement scheme emanyikiddwa mu mateeka, naye wakati awo wabaawo balwawo nnyo okufuna obusiimo bwabwe. Ate n'abaawummula edda era nabo nga baweebwa dda oba retirement package okufuna pension nayo elwawo. Okugendako ku leave, annual leave, abamu batya okugenda ku annual leave kubanga nja kuva wano ngende Sironko ngenze mu leave, abandaba oba balaba nnyirira balowooza n'ensawo gye nkuute ezitowa. Abo bali bamuliraanwa bajjajja ne basenga aba alina kakusuubiramu. So abamu batya okugenda ku annual leave n'okutya nti oba wano we bandeployinga awalungi awasava nnyinza okuvaawo ngenda okuddanga omulala yayingiddewo dda. So waliwo ne eyo kooti ekwasise empisa mu poliisi. Kuno okunoonyereza kwakizuula nti abatuula mu kooti eyo oluusi abatuula mu kooti eyo wabaawo ebibonerezo bye bawa oba ensala engeri gye basalamu emisango etamanyikiddwa bulungi mu mateeka oba enyigiriza abamu naye abalala ne baatirako ku liiso. Bagamba nti oluusi abatuula ku head office babaako n'engeri gye bayingirira kooti eyo ne bagiwabya mu ngeri emu oba endala. Amagye thank you so much. Kuba ripooti nnyingi ku nsonga y'amagya eyo ebadde by the way. Tugenda okusaba abakulembera Parliament era y'ensonga lwaki ngambye kankozesa omukisa guno ndi mu maaso ga omumyuka wa sipiika tuweebwe omukisa kwebe kikwatako naffe tubeekooko n'endowooza yaffe gye tuleeta mu maaso gaabwe mu maaso g'ababaka ba Parliament. Mpadde ekyokulabirako nti akakiiko k'eddembe ly'obuntu ke kasinga okubeera n'emirimu mingi nnyo mu ssemateeka wa Uganda. Ate akakiiko kaffe tekalina ssentebe w'akakiiko k'eddembe ly'obuntu talina mumyuka we. So akakiiko kaffe kokka mu constitution ke kalina deputy ke katalina yes obulala bulina. So ate ffe tulina emirimu emingi. So kati ate bwe twegaatibwako akakiiko ka Equal Opportunities Commission ekitegeeza emirimu ate gigenda kugaziwa nnyo. Y'ensonga lwaki tulina enteekateeka nti mu birowoozo byaffe bye tugenda okuleeta mu babaka ba Parliament tugenda okusaba nti kuba kirabika mu bbago tekiriimu naye tulowooza nti akakiiko k'eddembe ly'obuntu kasaanidde kabeere n'omumyuka wa ssentebe nga bwe kiri ku bukiiko obulala. Era kyenjogedde gye kiri nnyo kubanga mu mwaka 2019 akakiiko kano kafiirwa ssentebe waako omugenzi Haji Medi Kagwa ng'atalina mumyuka we. So ate mu mateeka ssentebe bw'atabeerawo akakiiko kyenkanyi kaba tekaliwo. So ekyo mpadde kyakulabirako naye tulina ebirowoozo bingi bye tusuubira okuleeta mu maaso g'ababaka nga tusaba nti yensonga lwaki nasabye nti bwe kituuka mu Parliamentary ekirowoozo kyaffe nasabye omumyuka wa sipiika akiwagire naffe tusobole okubeera ne kuba nange oluusi nandyagadde mpumuleko okwo nsitukeko okwo ngendeko ewaffe Bulambuli naye bwe mba sirina deputy chair kiba kizibu. Mwebale nnyo okumpuliriza naye